Carpe diem, or in other words, seize the day. Carpe diem comes from a Latin term meaning to enjoy the day, or more literally, pluck the day. It is believed that the first use of this phrase was by Roman poet Horace. To pluck the day was like to pluck the harvest. Its meaning was supposed to signify that just like you can't collect this year's harvest while worrying about next year's harvest, you can't seize today while concerning yourself with how you'll seize tomorrow. It's supposed to be a reminder for people to enjoy the present without getting stuck stressing about what the future holds. But to seize the day, when you can barely find the energy to roll out of bed in the morning, is a struggle. Purpose is something necessary for a man to have, but is also an elusive beast. For millennia, raising children was where people found their purpose, but I guess we're too good for that now. In a world of girl bosses and promiscuity, purpose is a fairy tale that we tell ourselves to make life minimally less depressing. If you lack purpose, it's just because you haven't climbed the corporate ladder far enough or had enough variety of partners in your bedroom. Just conform, degenerate further, and then you'll be happy. Forget all about the woes of today, think only of tomorrow. Because tomorrow everything will be perfect. Suffering is temporary, but money and lust are eternal. People who tell you this hate you. There really isn't a better way to say it. At best, they're unbelievably naive and stupid, literally less intelligent than everyone's favourite starfish. At worst, they want you to fail. They want you to give up. They parrot ideas of happiness that sound fresh from a Disney movie. I'm sure he's not the first to make such comments, but Homath shared a thought to Twitter that every fantasy story for teen girls is this unremarkable mid that no one ever noticed, bumps into the best man that ever lived, and he quits everything to worship her right away because he saw that she was secretly the smartest and prettiest of all. Every fantasy story for teen boys is this significantly taller than average guy had courage and perseverance and luck and the perfect set of skills, and he got the right advice from experienced wise men along the way, and that's why he was able to do something amazing and super unlikely to succeed. But he managed to save everybody's lives, and so he won the attention of a girl slightly above his market value who did nothing but hold her hands over her mouth and watch while he spit in the face of death. If you're a man, there is a good chance you don't like being given gifts or having someone else pay for your lifestyle. There is some kind of fire in you that won't allow you to just exist and go through the motions of someone else's design. It's an overwhelming, burning feeling that leaves you miserable due to the fact that you can never live up to your own expectations. Some men try to drown out that fire. They spend all day watching Netflix and sell their soul to the first zombie company that agrees to pay them minimum wage. Life is not a Disney movie. Not every man can be the hero that saves the day and marries the princess. But every man can aim to be the best possible version of himself in everything that he does. You don't have to make a treacherous journey across deserts of snow and ice or fight comic book villains to be a great man. Being a great man is about refusing to back down when something gets difficult, getting up again when you get knocked down, because they're never going to keep you down. You need to be able to provide for your family without neglecting to spend time with them. They won't care how big the house is or how luxurious the holidays are if you spend every waking hour in the office. You have to have your life and live it too. There is a great book by Timothy Ferriss called The 4-Hour Workweek, which discusses this topic. Maybe you can't marry a Disney princess, but you can make your girlfriend feel like one. Maybe then she'll treat you like a noble hero. If someone tells you to act in a way that would only reasonably make you feel more depressed, instead of less, they probably hate you. Worse than that, they probably hate themselves. How many 40-something-year-old women are on TikTok complaining that they are great catchers, that all of the men that they ever meet were subpar and jealous of how important her career is, or whatever idiom they tell themselves? How many unheard and unseen men are using the same platform to shout into the abyss about how the world screwed them, and how it's going to screw you too? You can't take advice from people that hate themselves. It would be like following a fish's advice on how to breathe oxygen. Just use your gills, mate. Life is complicated, and anyone who tells you that they know all the answers is just being dishonest and probably trying to sell you something. Miserable people will give you advice that will make you miserable, but the opposite isn't necessarily true. Happy people likely won't be able to make you happy because they don't know how they got there.
Yes, thank you. Exactly. Settle. Because otherwise, you're just going to get older and harder and more alone. And you're going to do everything you can to fill that hole with friends and your career and meaningless sex, but the hole doesn't get filled. And one day, you're going to look around and you're going to realize that everybody loves you, but nobody likes you. And that is the loneliest feeling in the world.
The problem with a lot of people is that they feel like the world owes them something, but do little to nothing to provide any kind of value for the world. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Nothing in this world is owed to you. If you want to seize the day, then you have to do it for yourself. Not just today, but every day. When you were growing up, there is a good chance you were told by your parents or school teachers and whoever else that you could be anything you wanted to be. Maybe they also added if you try hard enough, or some similar remark, which at least makes the fairy tale a tiny fraction less dishonest. Usually I would call it a blatant lie, but there is some amount of difference between dishonesty and a lie. In part, it is based on intention. You can tell the truth but still be dishonest. If that sounds confusing, just understand that avoiding lying and being honest are also not the same thing. Honesty is to spill the entire can of beans, leave no stone unturned, and to tell absolutely everything. Sometimes you just don't know the truth. You don't always have to be honest, but you should aim to be. Or at bare minimum, don't lie. Getting back to you can be anything that you want to be, and why I consider it dishonest. For one, there are certain limitations set on you by your genetics. Even IQ is a derivative of your parents. The majority of people have IQ scores between 80 to 120. When people in this range have children together, the IQ of the child is usually an average of the parents. If someone has an IQ score of 90, they'll probably struggle to get a job at NASA, DEI points aside. Nor should someone be in such an important position if they're incapable of performing at a high level. We have enough Boeing planes falling out of the sky without adding rockets to the chaos. Heraclitus, a Greek philosopher, once said, "Out of every 100 men, 10 shouldn't even be there. 80 are just targets, 9 are the real fighters, and we're lucky to have them, for they make the battle. But the one is a warrior, and he will bring the others back." It used to be okay not to be exceptional, to not do anything exceptional. For 99% of us, that's what the world has in store. It's not necessary to aim to be in the top 1%, but it's also not necessary for you to be in the bottom 50%. The fastest way to become the person you want to be is to put yourself in a situation where you have no choice but to become them. Going to the gym 3 times a week is not up for debate. Eating less fast food is not optional. You know who you want to be, and you know what the person would do, so just copy him. Pretend for long enough that you might find yourself becoming him. I saw it said before that a marriage is not 50-50. It is 60-40 with both of you trying to be the 60. Not only is that a very wise perspective on marriage, but imagine for a moment that every relationship you have worked this way. At work, you give your employer the best that you can, and in return, your boss looks after you, awards you promotions, raises, approves all your holiday and sick days with no questions asked. When you go for a lunch, you forget your wallet, but because your society is built on trust, the restaurant allows you to leave and come back later with the money. You're so appreciative that you leave a sizable tip when you return. For a long time, this world existed, but we screwed it up. We took it for granted and believed that we could have our cake and eat it too. We thought it was never going to end. Nobody had to do anything hard to make the world this way. It's just the way the world is. But what hippies in the 60s and 70s never understood was that a lot of people had to do a lot of hard things to give them the freedom necessary to smoke all day and stick it to the man. Or that it isn't the human nature to be accepting or gratuitous. They never grew up, and somehow the worldview they dreamed of started to become mandated by policy and regulation. Whatever the opposite of seize the day is, that's what became the mantra. Honestly, I spend a lot of time thinking about how it's probably too late to go back to that world. At least for any of us to see it. The best we can do is slam on the brakes and try to minimize the damage so that maybe some of our children and grandchildren can experience the world that our parents and grandparents grew up in. Life only gives you one guarantee, and that is that it will end. You will be forgotten. A tiny and insignificant blip in the possibly infinite universe. Great men like Marcus Aurelius will be forgotten too. Just like your life and my life, the human experience is a temporary and small experiment in a universe larger than we could even begin to imagine. For some people, that's a depressing revelation, but for others, including myself, it's extremely liberating. If you don't matter, then your struggles don't matter either, and they will end just as suddenly as they began. Your fears and anything else holding you back don't matter. They can be beaten. The difference between an optimist and a nihilist is perspective. Like my channel name suggests, I often consider myself both, which is somewhat paradoxical but not uncommon. It can be both a blessing and a curse, and as my Twitter handle suggests, I'm frequently stuck between two minds. Sometimes seeing two worlds that are so opposite makes it difficult to know which one is real, to know what to think or where to go. When you have two sides of an argument, the truth is usually found in the middle. Optimists have a poor worldview because they lack the perspective that danger or dishonesty exist. Similarly, nihilists have a poor worldview because they lack anything to motivate them. They have nothing to look forward to or be excited about and trap themselves in cycles of quick-hitting dopamine, like at the bottom of a bottle. To make today everything that it has the potential to be, You have to be somewhat optimistic for your future. Hope for the best and plan for the worst is a popular phrase that simplifies this sentiment. There is no harm in having a backup plan. If you're going to seize the day, you have to be optimistic that you can still enjoy tomorrow, but not be so fearful of tomorrow never coming that you neglect to enjoy today. Most tunnels will have a light at the end of them, so it's better to hope while remaining cautious than to sit in the dark. Thanks for watching.